Is it going to be a third year in a row of heartbreak for Leinster, or do they finally have what it takes to get over the line in the Champions Cup? Welcome back to the channel. The obvious answer to that is yes, of course Leinster do. They are a team packed full of quality. We know they're one of the best resource sides in Europe, so of course they could win the Champions Cup. The reason for me asking the question is because it gets me into looking back on the semi-finals in the Investec Champions Cup over the weekend. I was working, so I wasn't able to do any kind of on-the-whistle reaction videos, so I thought now, on Monday, would be a good opportunity to do just that and start to cast my eyes forward towards the final. So you comment down below, what do you make of Leinster at this moment in time? Because I think there are still question marks over them following what we saw in their semi-final. Are Toulouse now the favourites for that final? And in regards to the English clubs, I will touch upon Harlequins and Northampton as well. Despite being underdogs, was it a missed opportunity? I'll get into all of that. That's all coming up in the video. So drop a comment down below. Make sure you like the video. And if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. So let's start off with Leinster. Because for the first 40 or 50 minutes against the Saints, they were brilliant. They were everything that many people would have expected of this semi-final, that Leinster had so much quality and were a team that dominated Northampton. Northampton couldn't get any sort of foothold in the game. But it ends up being a 3-point win. Northampton had the ball close to the end and were going for a try, which might have ended up winning it. How did Leinster get to that point? And the big question really that is going to be asked of them, I think, is to what extent are the psychological scars of the past two Champions Cup finals, of the last couple of years' inability to win the URC, to what extent is there a psychological impact on this team when it comes to the biggest moments? Do they get a little bit nervous? Do they shut down almost? It seemed like they were trying to shut the game down, and maybe that played into Northampton's hands and how they were able to get back into it. And when you look at the game at the weekend, if that was against a different team, could they have possibly ended up losing that game? Particularly when you think about the final and how good Toulouse are. If Leinster showed that sort of thing, those sorts of signs in the final, will they end up coming short again? I think that's the reason to ask this question. And for me, is a fascinating question about this Leinster team. We know how good they are. We know how good their coaches are. But can they get themselves over the line? I think in terms of the Nienaber game plan and tactics, when you look at Jacques Nienaber coming in, we are seeing that this season with Leinster. I think they are more robust defensively. I think some of their selection decisions this year have been more pragmatic in terms of looking at players and the reason they're the best for that game and the job that they're going to do. But I also think the attacking game hasn't necessarily looked as slick. It certainly didn't look as slick against Northampton. They seem to be attacking more narrowly. So all of that is kind of in this melting pot of where are Leinster at the moment. I think we've seen the good of Jacques Nienaber and his massive influence on that team and how he is the figurehead now from a coaching standpoint for what they're trying to do. And I think there are a lot of reasons that you could put forward what he is implementing on that team will put them in a better place when it comes to the big moments, when it comes to the Champions Cup final, of actually being able to win it. And we may well end up seeing that at the end of May at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the final against Toulouse. They could end up lifting that trophy, but it is a question, and I am so interested in Dubliners, in Leinsters, Leinster fans. Give me your opinion of it. So my summary of Leinster really is they are a very good side. They were brilliant for a lot of the game, but they will need to do better. Can they be better when it comes to playing Toulouse? Speaking of Toulouse, are they now the favourites for the final? Because of what we saw from Leinster and because of what we saw from Toulouse themselves, who at times were also sensational. Built a good lead against Harlequins, and then Quins did what Quins do, which is somehow come back into the game. And if it wasn't for a yellow card, maybe they could have pushed it even closer. But ultimately, Toulouse end up getting the victory. I mean, they've got internationals coming off their bench. When you're bringing Julien Marchand on for Pitu Malvaca and various other internationals, they are an incredibly good team, and they are a team of such European Champions Cup pedigree. Because And obviously, from my point of view, I would have loved to have seen Harlequins and Northampton cause an upset. And I'm sure many of you watching the channel and the video may well have wanted to see that as well. But regardless of all that, putting nationalism aside for a second, Leinster-Toulouse is the best final we could have got. Because, I mean, they are, if not the best two, they are two of the best club sides in Europe in the Northern Hemisphere, without question. They are the kind of Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, Barcelona of rugby union clubs in European rugby. And in this competition, you look back at the pool stages, they were the two highest seeds as well. They have been the best two in the competition and they will be the ones to compete in that final. But I do think Toulouse, maybe marginally now for me, are the favourites. I think it's really tight. I was doing a podcast earlier where someone said that the bookies currently have it as Toulouse as 1 point marginal favourites, which for Leinster fans might make your heartbeat quicken a little bit, thinking back to the very narrow defeats you've had against La Rochelle in the last couple of finals. So I think it'll be incredibly tight. In particular for Leinster, I think the health of their team when we come to the final in terms of James Ryan and Hugo Keenan could be crucial for them coming back in, and whether they are able to return or not, it's uncertain at the moment. But I think it'll be a great final at a great stadium with two great teams. But are they currently now the favourites? You can let me know. I want to finish off the video by mentioning the English sides, Northampton and Harlequins in particular, but also more generally in the Champions Cup. They have, as a whole here, the English side, some better than others, but generally speaking, they have competed a lot better this year with the best clubs in Europe and some of the best clubs in South Africa than many people would have expected, myself included. Before the Champions Cup, with everything going on in the English game, with the salary cap being less, with clubs going into administration, I didn't expect them to be able to compete as well as they have done in the Champions Cup this season. So I give them major credit, in particular Harlequins and Northampton, because I've said already they were the heavy underdogs for these two games. I think they've come out of it with a huge amount of credit in the bank. But my question, as I posed to you at the start of the video, was for Northampton and Harlequins, was this a missed opportunity? Which on the one hand seems ridiculous, because as I've already said, Leinster and Toulouse were the teams everyone expected to win. Leinster and Toulouse were the teams we all thought would end up getting to the final. The fact that Northampton go away to Leinster at Croke Park, over 82,000, and they win narrowly. And the fact, likewise, Quins make the trip down to Toulouse, and if it wasn't for a yellow card, maybe we would be having a discussion about that game being different. And had Northampton or Quins won, it would have gone down as one of the great upsets, one of the great road victories in this competition. So when you factor all that in, it's kind of ridiculous to say that it's a missed opportunity for them. But the reason I question it is I was thinking about this today. Let's say Toulouse and Leinster, or one of them, hadn't won. We would all be sat here and we would be thinking, they will be back there next year, or they will be back there in the next few years because it's the quality those teams have, the resources they have, how well coached they are. They will get back there again. They will have another opportunity. I don't have the same faith in Quins and Northampton. Look at Harlequins. They're losing Andre Esterhazen and they're losing Will Collier. They're losing Lewis Liner. Saints are losing Courtney Laws, who was immense again against Leinster, plus Lewis Ludlam as well. And just the general uncertainty around a lot of English clubs. On the one hand, you could argue, particularly for Northampton, who've improved so much this year, that this will stand them in great stead. You have to go through these moments as a team in the Champions Cup to be able to eventually get there and try and win it. But I just wonder whether they were opportunities missed for these teams, and whether we have as much guarantee or as much faith in them being able to get themselves back there next year or the year after, or whenever it might be in the not too distant future. That's my reason for asking that question, was it an opportunity missed? You can let me know in the comments. Maybe you think that's unfair, but I don't know. I think it's something that is worth considering. Likewise, the other questions as well. Are Toulouse now favourites? And did we see the mental scars of Leinster? Where is that team? Is that team finally ready to get over a couple of the hurdles which have kept them back over the last few years? The Champions Cup, it's been good this year, and we've got a great final, I think, as well. I'm possibly going to do something on the Challenge Cup final as well for the South African fans, the Sharks fans, the Gloucester fans. I might do a video on that tomorrow. For the time being, comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.